Well, hey there everybody, Aaron here. Welcome to another episode of Gideon's Tactical. Today, I'm really excited to do a review for you on the Boker knives Vox Rolled in black coating. They originally came out with a satin kind of finish, or kind of a clear coat, and they have now come out with a black finish to help fight against rust with that D2 steel. We're going to go through today and look at all the specs as well as a full field test and review for you. And I want to thank Michael Hadaway for sending this over to me. He wanted me to do a full field test and review on it before he started working with it. So he's one of our viewers over here at Gideon's Tactical. So Michael, thank you so much for sending this to me and giving me the opportunity to thrash on this sucker. So today, guys, I'm going to beat on this thing, wail on it. You're going to see it in a lot of different tasks, and we're going to see whether or not Boker has come up with a very good classic design. I mean, he's got the classic lines. It's got pretty good materials for the most part that we're going to look at here today, and we're going to see whether or not this is a great kind of companion into almost a full-size survival knife for you guys from Boker Knives. So with that being said, let's look at some specs, get out there and start using this knife. All right, guys, just want to go over the basic specs for you here on this blade before we jump on into it. Now, the steel is D2 tool steel. It says right there, D2 tool steel. So, that's definitely an upgrade over 1095. It is foreign produced. I believe it's made in Taiwan, so it's not US D2. But, I've had some experience with some other D2 that's made overseas and been so far very impressed with it. Micarta handle scales. It has a full flat grind. It weighs in without the sheath at 9.4 ounces, so pretty lightweight for the size of the blade that you are getting. I think a lot of that has to do with the big hollowed out portions on the handle. And the cutting edge itself is 5.5 inches. It is about 0.2 inches thick, so nice and thick spine there, full tang with those micarta handle scales. So, and then the overall length from front to back is 11 inches. So very similar to actually an ESEE 6 is actually what it looks like. Very, very similar to that. But those are the basic specs for you guys. So with that being said, let's get out there and start using this blade. Well, guys, I got to tell you, first off, I just love this size. This is one of my favorite sizes of a knife, is right in that, about 6-inch range. It really gives you a lot of capabilities, not only just in batoning, you're able to baton, basically the sizes of wood that you should be batoning anyway. From about 3 inches in diameter on down, you're able to span that wood very well, and it's able to give you plenty of blade length, to hammer on. And that D2 tool steel held up really well. I didn't see any sort of, worry with it, chipping or breaking or snapping. And we did some of this batoning in sub-freezing temperatures, and I didn't see any sort of issues and really wailed on it, both in side splitting as well as, just the normal batoning. Did a lot of stuff to try and, basically I was trying to make it chip or roll, and it has held a fantastic edge throughout this entire using process and reviewing process and taking it out in the blade boot camp. It's really performed well with that D2 and held an edge, definitely better than the 1095 that I've seen with most other products. And with this type of knife, you're able to do that light chopping, clearing branches off and, making, getting kindling basically for the fire. This isn't going to be, you're not going to be Paul Bunyan chopping down the forest with this blade, but it's going to be able to do all of the, survival tasks that you would need for a medium-sized knife like this. And it's able to, stay in your hand while you do that really good chopping because of the handle flare out. And I just really appreciated the overall design and capabilities of this knife when it comes to the chopping, as well as, again, with this knife, even though it can handle that chopping, batoning, you're able to do that finer tasks like, just making a spear, carving, whittling, making feather sticks for a fire. You got to be able to do that with a blade. If you can't make good feather sticks, and it's not going to cramp your hand, and if it can't, make those fine shavings, it's basically useless in my opinion. So this knife again performed great after all the chopping and batoning. We went to some wood and did some really fine, feather stick making, and I was overall very impressed with its capabilities and what it could do in that category, as well as not notching. You need notches either for a 4-figure trap maybe that you're doing, a snare. Or maybe something else along those lines. This knife is absolutely able to do that and make really good notches as well. So I was impressed with that capability. We did some tip testing as well, made a hole for a bow drill, and as we were testing this out, we found that it also makes really good superfine tinder when you're trying to start a fire. So if you do what you see here and kind of bore out a piece of wood that you maybe baton and split through, you could do that and get some really good sparks for a fire and catch on a fire, as well as a tactical knife. If you are looking to maybe do some stabbing and you are looking as this as a self-defense knife, it can do that. And then finally, rope cutting of any kind. This knife is really just an overall, utility blade. I mean, it's going to be able to do all of the tasks you would call upon a knife, particularly in this size range, to do. It's going to do it with flying colors, and I was just very impressed. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and look at the sheath, and I got to give you the carry option rating for this knife. Now, it's a molded plastic, and I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, this is extremely poor quality, 1 out of 5. Very low quality. I hate this sheath, actually, and I would almost have preferred a nylon over this, mainly because it is not a very good fit at all. Extremely loud, rattles around. You can see the handle just plays around like in there like crazy. There's really no place for you to pull off. You got to put your thumb all the way up here and kind of push and pull, and it's awkward to get it out. So there's no, thumb ramp to push off of, and it's just very, very low quality. This belt loop that they give you is very, very cheap plastic. I mean, if I just pull this a little bit more, I'm going to snap and crack that. So I mean, this sheath is literally a joke. And either a custom-made leather, Kydex, or even a spec. What is it? Spec Ops Molly sheath that we've reviewed here before would be a better option over this. I mean, it has lashing points, it's got a drainage hole, but just, guys, I hate it. Very, very low quality. One of the worst sheaths, actually, that I've seen on the market, particularly for this molded plastic. And so for the price point of the knife, too, that really hurts the value that we'll talk about here in a minute. But the Kydex, or excuse me, molded plastic sheath with the carry options that they give you, 1 out of 5, very low quality, and not at all enjoyable. You're going to have to upgrade this immediately when you purchase this Boker knife. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and talk about the ergonomics, and I got to give you the rating on this Vox Rolled for its ergonomics. It is a full tank construction like we've talked about, with micarta handle scales that are pinned in, so you can't really remove them. I'm sure there's probably some way that you could play with it and maybe do that, but it's not designed to be removed. And I wear large size gloves. You can see there, it fits real nice in my hand. Got plenty of room to spare there. And it's got a real nice palm swell down here to kind of keep it in place while you're chopping. I really like that a lot. And just very, very ergonomic. No traction really on that micarta. It's machined to be very nice and smooth, so there's not a lot of traction. But with the jimping that we talked about a little bit, really nice jimping there, and that really nice guard, that's going to lock you really into place if you are going to do any sort of stabbing or long extended cutting. And it feels really good in your hand, and it has this little kind of hump right here, so that when you're choked up, your fingers go basically all in front of that hump on the choil, and it feels very good and comfortable. Or you back up and you do your chopping, and then it cups really well back there for your chopping task. And then in the middle, it just kind of sits right there, and your pinky goes on the back end of that hump. So that hump doesn't really cause any hot spots with all of the different work that I've taken this knife through. So overall, guys, the ergonomic rating is a 5 out of 5. Very, very high. It's even a little bit more ergonomic than the SE6, because the SE6 can tend to be a little blocky. This one is a lot more rounded in its overall ergonomics. And then it has those 2 tubes in there that not only lightens the blade a little bit, but gives you the option for lanyard holes in different ways wherever you would want to put a lanyard. So very, very good ergonomics, very, very comfortable, and even a little bit more comfortable in hand than the SE6. So ergonomic rating of 5 out of 5 on the Vox Rolled. All right, guys, I want to talk about the value as well as rolling in this SE6 to just kind of show you some of the similarities between these two designs, because they are very similar in how they are built and designed. So first, we'll just talk about the similarities and pros and cons of each here before we talk about the value of the Vox itself. You're getting almost the exact same blade length. You're getting very similar weights. The SE6 will actually be about 2.5 ounces more in weight. You got 1095 D2. And what I've found is that the edge retention on your D2 Vox is going to have a little bit better edge retention before you have to resharpen it than your SE6. You will notice it. The D2 will hold a longer edge than your SE6 will, but it resharpens pretty good, almost as fast as your SE6 would. Both these knives are very similar in how they resharpen, but your D2 steel will definitely hold a little bit of a longer edge. The other thing to note as well is that I actually like the ergonomics on the Vox better than my SE6 because it has a slimmer handle. The handle scales have been kind of machined and rounded more than the SE6, and it has that little flare that we talked about that kind of holds your hand in place for when you're chopping. Even though it weighs a couple ounces less than your SE6, you'll actually get slightly better chopping with your Vox than you would with your SE6, and overall longevity of cutting is actually going to feel better in your hand with the Vox than it would be with the SE6. So there's actually some pros over the SE6 with this Vox. Even though the D2 steel, doesn't have a lifetime warranty, no questions asked, money back guarantee basically that the SE6 has to offer you, the Vox is still going to give you basically all of the exact same capabilities as your SE6, but with a slightly better edge retention and a little bit more ergonomic handle. But when it comes to the value of these knives, they're basically almost the exact same price. You can get at knifeworks.com, you can pick up your SE6 for right around $113 is what I paid for this model. Right around that price is what you're going to pay for an SE6, so $113. And the Vox, if you get the black coated version that we have here before us, is going to run you about $120. The satin version will run you about $110. So very similar in price points. The problem is that, as we just talked about with the sheath in the last section, this has to be replaced immediately on this Vox. And to get a good quality Kydex sheath for this knife, you're going to probably have to spend about another $40 or $50 easily. So now we're talking, for this particular model here, the black coated one, we're looking like $160, $170 to get this running like the SE6, because the SE6 comes with a great molded plastic sheath, much better in every way than the Vox one does. So for value, the SE6 is actually a much better value for your money than your Vox would be. So with that being said, guys, the rating that I'm going to give the Vox compared to other knives on the market of similar size and dimensions like this SE6, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. There are definitely better knives out there on the market, knives that will do the same thing for a lot cheaper once you get a good quality sheath for your Vox. So something just to consider. I'm going to give it a value rating 3 out of 5 here when it comes to the value on the Boker Vox. All right, guys, I got to give you the overall quality rating here on the Vox rolled. Now, as you've already seen, I think that sheath is horrendous, not only in quality, but in design. But other than that, the overall quality, even though it's a foreign-produced D2 steel blade, the fit and finish is fantastic on this knife. The coating's holding up very well for all the batoning and abuse. The D2 steel is holding a better edge than the 1095 that we're used to. Just overall, really well designed and very good quality, in my opinion. Very tough and just really thought out, well quality, good quality design. But I am going to ding it 1 point because of that terrible, terrible sheath. Now, a lot of knives out there on the market come with really bad sheaths, but this one really takes the cake, particularly for the price point that we're talking about at right around $100, depending on the satin or black coated finish. So quality rating of 4 out of 5. Very good quality knife in itself with a very poor quality sheath. But other than that, guys, I mean, you're getting a good quality item for sure. Well, guys, you've seen the Vox rolled in action. We've talked through it. We've gone through the ins and outs and talked about all the different pros and cons that this knife has. And when it comes to the knife itself, I mean, it is a classic design, and there's not a lot you can complain about, honestly. I mean, it's fantastic in almost every way. So I got to wrap up my likability, though, for you on this knife. And I'm going to ding it 1 point. My likability is 4 out of 5. The knife itself, 5 out of 5. But with that sheath, I mean, it is so horrible. I mean, we get knives over here that we review, and the sheath is not good, but at least, it gets the job done until you can upgrade and get, either a good, spec ops sheath like this. This would be the one that I recommend. This is the 8-inch one. This is the spec ops 8-inch sheath. Fits in there fantastic, no rattle, really good, nice option. I'll have a link in the description below for the review on this sheath. This is about a $30 modular sheath that you can purchase that will hold a lot of different knives, or a Kydex model. There's always, usually when you get a knife, even if the sheath isn't great, it's at least doable until you can upgrade. This one, no way. I mean, it is trash from the get-go and a horrendous, horrendous sheath. So I am going to ding at 1 point on the likability for this blade. But other than that, guys, I have really enjoyed using this. I wouldn't recommend this over an SE6. I would always recommend getting an SE6 first, but if you like your SE6 a lot and you're just looking for another knife of very similar dimensions, I think this would be a great secondary option for you. Or if you're a really big fan of D2 tool steel, this is basically going to be a D2 SE6, and just has a lot of things going for it for that really good camp knife, survival knife that isn't, ginormous and, you're trying to chop down a whole forest with. This is absolutely capable to do some harder tasks like batoning and chopping, and also get the finer detail work done like skinning game, food processing, and feather stick making and notching and those type of things. So, guys, overall likability 4 out of 5. I would recommend it if you've been interested in it. There's not a whole lot. Just know that you will want to upgrade immediately that sheath that they come with when you purchase either the satin finish or the black coated version of the Vox Rolled from Boker. So guys, ultimately, I hope that this review has helped you out with your purchasing decisions on whether or not this is going to be a good knife for you to own. And always remember, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all the other relevant social media. Please like, share, comment on this video, and please always, stay tuned for the next episode. We always crank out about 2 a week. And always remember to stay equipped and stay prepared. We'll see you out there.